It being 6 o'clock, I call the May 2020 Town of Clayton Planning Board meeting to order. I'll turn it over to the board clerk for roll call. Looks like she's muted.
Okay. When I state your name, please just say here. Travis Avery.
Here.
Brian Teed.
Here.
Stephen Powers. I know he's here.
Stephen, do you want to unmute? There you go.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. James Lipscomb.
Here.
Bucky Coates.
Here.
Andrea Merritt.
Here.
Frank Price. James Moore.
Here.
And Marty Bizzle.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Our first order of business, are there any adjustments needed to the agenda? If there are none, we will move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes needed? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion to approve by Board Member Coates and a second by Board Member Powers, and I'll turn it over to the board clerk for a vote.
Okay. In order to ensure the record accurately reflects the vote for this item, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Travis Avery.
Affirmative.
Brian Teed.
Yes.
Stephen Powers.
Yes.
James Lipscomb.
Yes.
Bucky Coates.
Yes.
Andrea Merritt.
Yes.
James Moore.
Yes.
And Marty Bizzle.
Yes.
So I guess I'll say motion carries. Making sure I do this right.
Yep.
Okay. Motion approved. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. The next order of business is item 4A on the agenda, public hearing for 2020-17-RZ tract on Powhatan Road rezoning. We will now hear from the town attorney.
Hi all, Merrick Parrott with Parker Poe, the town attorney for the town of Clayton. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that there's recent legislation about remote meetings in the time of emergency declarations as we are in now, requiring a board not to take action on a public hearing. At the public hearing, it requires an at least 24-hour comment period after the end of the public hearing. So in light of that legislation, the board will hear and hear from the applicant for the 2 rezonings that are public hearings, but will not be taking action on those items tonight.
Thank you. We will now hear from staff for this item.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Keynes. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Good. Jeff Keynes, town planner with the town of Clayton. I'm here to present the staff report for the tract and Powhatan Road rezoning, file number 2020-230-RZ. The request is to rezone the piece of property from RE to Industrial 1. Its current use right now is...
Hey, Jeff, can you share your screen actually?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I knew it would be that one. Okay. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone see that okay? Okay. Not Haley will say something to me. So the request is to rezone the property from RE to Industrial 1. Its current use, as you can see, is vacant. It's approximately 22, just over 22 acres in size, and is located on Powhatan Road, about 1,200 feet west of the Mohican Trail. Its current zoning, as you can see, is RE, and its proposed zoning is requested at Industrial 1. Here's a photograph of the existing street view from what it currently looks like. And staff has taken a look at this property, and we find it is consistent with the comprehensive plan of 2040. It is consistent with the employment center, and it's also consistent with the lands that are towards the west of this site. And with that concludes the staff report, and staff recommends approval of this rezoning request. And I also have the applicant, David Oringer, and Mark Jones with him to present any reports that they may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff at this point? If not, then we will hear from the applicant.
Thank you, board, for letting me sit here and talk to y'all about this piece of property. I put together a small presentation that I emailed to Jeff, a PDF. And can you pull that up, Jeff? Here we go. Let's see here. What I did, most of my data came from the comprehensive land plan. And so what I've done here is I just started off with this plan helps the community answer some of these questions and keep Clayton on a path to proactively manage growth in a way that results in a stronger and more prosperous community. Next page, Jeff. And this is going through the comprehensive land plan. Clayton yesterday and today, Clayton looks much different than it did 20 years ago. Major employers, including Grifols, Novos, Caterpillar, open state-of-the-art facilities within the town planning area. And we want to just continue that, honestly. Next slide. The population of Clayton has grown more than 150% from 2000 to 2013. If current projections maintain, the town could double in size during the next 20 years. And I'm really just using this information to build the case that, yes, the employment center will continue to grow as an employment center, and that's what we're wanting to do. Next slide. This is the future land use map, and as you can see, I've marked the 3 employment center areas on this map. And down there in the bottom right corner of the Powhatan tract shows my piece with the star on there. The descriptions of the land use plan, I went ahead and just put in all 10 of these uses, knowing that I wanted to get to the to employment center, Jeff. Just click on two slides, I believe. Yeah. And this exactly what we want to do with this piece of property is Clayton's Employment Center is designated on the future land use map to provide locations for primary employment and economic development opportunities. And that's what we want to do. And then as down there in the zoning district table, it shows the B3, the I1, the I2, PF, and PDD. And that's where we chose our I1 zoning from. Next slide, please, Jeff. Which would be the next file, population. And I got this from the town, but I just started looking at industrial manufacturers and companies in our town. And, it goes back to 1974 and actually before that with Bartex and all the mills and stuff. But I remember when Cutter came to Clayton in 1974. And as you can see, we've had a wonderful run of great companies that have come, taken over companies and been a part of our town. And it's a great thing. I'm tickled that we have these companies, and I hope that our property will be something that can grow with these companies or for something good like this. Next slide. Oh, that's the one from Mark. There was one more that actually was the minutes to our meeting, and y'all probably have that. And I just wanted to address the concerns that the community meeting had.
So now, unfortunately, I did not scan that one in. It is.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that's in y'all's file. And I just want y'all to know that we do want to address any issues that anybody has with the property or the rezoning. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions at this time for the applicant? All right. If not, thank you. I will now turn it over to the board clerk for public comment.
Okay, we received a letter from Teresa Scott. Her address is 3366 Powhatan Road, stated May 19th, 2020. Dear Clayton Planning Board, on March 4th, 2020, my husband and I attended a neighborhood meeting at True Line Surveying regarding the rezoning request by Mr. David Oringer of a tract of land on Powhatan Road. The tract of land in question borders our property, where we live at 3366 Powhatan Road. At present, this land is zoned RE, with the petitioner requesting it to be rezoned I1. I respectfully ask the town of Clayton to deny this request for rezoning this property. While I understand why Mr. Oringer has requested the change, I do not believe it is in the best interest of our neighborhood or the Clayton community at this time. Powhatan Road is a semi-rural community, mostly residential or agricultural, from Powhatan Church to Wilson Mills on the left side of the road. We would very much like to keep it as rural as possible. In addition, the bordering tract of land between the one in question and Powhatan Church is owned by Griffles and has not been rezoned. It is still zoned RE and has been established as corporate lands for Learning Wildlife Habitat Council by Griffles. In keeping with the spirit of farmland versus quote unquote farmland, spelled PHARMLAND, we believe this particular tract of land should be kept as it is, at least where zoning is concerned. While it would financially benefit Mr. Oringer for the zoning to be changed to I1, it would not benefit the community as a whole. I am sympathetic to his plight, however. Since my family owned this property in the past, I can relate to his wanting to sell it. However, rezoning to I1 could bring any number of businesses to our community and leave us virtually surrounded by industry. In addition, we believe it would significantly decrease our property value. Powhatan Road is not a major thoroughfare. It is rural, two-lane road. With the construction of the second Novo Nordisk plant, the road has taken quite a beating. Noise and light pollution is ongoing 24 hours a day. If this tract of land were to be rezoned to I1, more industry would just compound the issues we already face and virtually surround us. This area of Powhatan Road is rich with history all the way back to the 1500s, with Chief Powhatan, the father of Pocahontas, who camped in the area many times, up to more recent times when it was farmed by my family and friends. I believe it would be much more beneficial to Clayton to maintain this area RE and possibly expound on the history, the wildlife, and ruralness of this area, instead of paving over it and making another industrial park. Further, maybe one of our healthcare neighbors, Novo or Griffles, would like to take it on and make it a nature park or greenway to benefit employees as well as the community. Another option would be a small subdivided neighborhood. A park or neighborhood would help sustain the rich heritage of the Powhatan community instead of covering it with more pavement. Either way, rezoning to I-1 should not be allowed. Sincerely, Teresa and Jesse Scott. There was also a petition sent with that to maintain the residential estate zonings with 16 signatures. And I believe there is Mr. Larry Smith who would like to make a comment.
Yes, I sent a letter also. Do you have a copy of my letter?
I did not receive that letter.
I emailed it to you. I also sent a copy of it to the planning board.
Let me.
Dated March 14th. When I sent it to the planning board, Mr. Robert Alhert, with copies to.
I do have those copies here. Yes, I have it. I have not seen the email though.
I sent the email on last Wednesday. The 20th.
Okay, did you want me to read the letter?
Yes, if you would, please. And then I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Okay. This was sent to each planning board member, which I have not seen the planning board member, so I have it here. Mr. Smith wrote, I attended the March 4th, 2020 neighborhood meeting held by Mr. Kirk Lane at True Line Surveying. At this meeting, I expressed my and my wife's objections to this rezoning request. Also in attendance, along with others, were my next door neighbors and sister, Mrs. Teresa Scott, and her husband, Jesse. Mrs. Scott has sent a letter dated March 6, 2020 to the planning board setting forth several objections that she has to this proposed rezoning. My wife and I are in total agreement with Mrs. Scott's objections. We had planned on attending the planning board's March 23rd, 2020 meeting to present our objections to this proposed rezoning in person. However, due to our age, health, and current situation, the COVID-19 virus, we feel that we should not be attending any meetings at this time. Therefore, we are requesting that you take this letter under consideration in lieu of an oral presentation from us. As stated previously, we are opposing this rezoning to I-1 since Novo Nordisk has and are continuing to build across the road from our property. There has been a tremendous increase in noise, dust, vibrations to our house, and traffic on Powhatan Road. It's now really bad. When I cross the road to my mailbox, I nearly always have to wait for numerous vehicles to pass by, and at times it is really a dangerous situation. If this rezoning is approved, then my sisters and my residential properties would be 3/4 surrounded by industry. I believe this would have a severe negative impact on our residential property values. Also, there is only one other large, about 15 acres piece of property adjacent to this proposed rezoning parcel before reaching the neighborhood of Powhatan Glen. And if this rezoning is approved, it is only a matter of time before I believe this other property would also be requesting for rezoning. If that happens, my sister and my residential properties will be completely surrounded 360 degrees by industry. Also, the applicant has not stated any intended use for this property if it is rezoned. Could it be something in the I-1 zoning that may be offensive to neighbors? It is our understanding that if this rezoning request is approved, any use listed in I-1 zoning could be put on this property. There are many uses listed in the I-1 zoning that we would not want next door to our family, and we feel other neighbors, like those in Powhatan Glen, would not want in this neighborhood either. Again, we want to reiterate our opposition to rezoning request and ask the planning board recommended denial of this application to the town council. We also ask that the letter be included in the records pertaining to subject rezoning requests. Sincerely, Larry G. Smith and Linda T. Smith. Okay.
Thank you. And it sounds like we have someone then who wants to make public comment as well. Mr. Smith, did you want to say something along with that?
Yes, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Number one, on the most recent map I was given, the property adjacent to this proposed rezoning parcel is still zoned RE, according to this map. And Mr. Gaines said it was not, so that's the question I have. Has the property west of this property been rezoned?
No, the property west of me, what is it? Property west.
Still showing RE on
Are still zoned, are still zoned RE.
You said the property.
That was part of the comprehensive plan 2020 for.
Yeah, but it's not currently zoned. It's currently zoned RE, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. I'm sorry. Let me jump in real quick. I just want to make sure procedurally, Samantha or Merrick, is that okay to kind of have the dialogue there, or do we need to hold questions? Okay, so that's fine. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so with that said, the property west of this property, the property north of this property, the property east of this property is all zoned RE. So you're leapfrogging if you rezone this property. You're spot zoning and you're leapfrogging. That's one objection I have to it. Also, this property was up for rezoning in 2014 and it was denied by this same board. And the only thing I know that has changed since then is that Novo Nordisk has built another plant, or is in the process of building another plant across the road from us. To me, this is just an attempt to get more value for the property. And it's not going to improve our neighborhood at all. There will be a destructive to it. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for your letter and your comments. We appreciate you being present for this. Are there any other comments, written or oral, at this time? Okay. Then what we'll do at this time is turn it over to the board for consideration. And just keeping in mind what was already stated, that after we've had a chance to make our comments, we will close the public hearing and public comment will be accepted, and we'll go through that after we've had our time to deliberate. So basically at this point then, any member of the board, you're welcome to make your comments on this issue.
Andrea, let me jump in 1 second. Mr. Mark Jones, were you going to speak on this matter? I wasn't sure what you were speaking on, or Mr. Orange or anyone else have any further comment.
I did not. I'm just kind of here to support David. If he wanted me to join in, I'd be glad to. I sent him my thought train on this in writing, but just to give a brief summary, I looked at this property at his request. He first was saying, is this the good use for the property? And if so, would it devalue the neighborhood properties? And I looked at the proposed use, which he just said I-1. He did not say to me any specific use. And I looked at from a highest and best use point, which is it physically possible, legally permissible, economically feasible, and maximally productive? And physically possible, yes, there's plenty of land there to do a lot of different type development scenarios. The legally permissible, currently zoned RE, however, with the adoption in October of 2015 of the comprehensive 2040 plan. Side note, as an appraiser, I love that document because it gives me a lot of information for what I do. With the designation employment center, I feel that that would fall in under that. So even though not formally rezoned, that's what this is all about. Economically feasible, with the growth going on in that area, yes, there is demand for this type use and development. Maximally productive, this would not be a coddled strawberry stand. This would be something that would, whatever is used, would go along with everything else out there, which is probably going to be in place for, decades to come. The second thought I was looking at was, will it damage neighborhood properties or the value of neighborhood properties? And I looked at what surrounded it. And of course, vacant land, it would really have no impact on. There's good buffering between this tract and the tracts in Glen Ridge to the back. Also, there's a couple of Powhatan Glen lots that are in the back, I guess, northeast corner of this property. They have a lot of buffering between them. They're larger than normal lots. And when I looked at the property, as Mr. Smith has said, he's there, and I think I heard the name Mrs. Scott. I'm not looking at my notes. I'm speaking from memory. Those are two residential properties, but it has been my experience in 20 plus years as a general appraiser that whenever properties are turned into commercial type uses, they tend to command a higher value because they have a different use category, and usually they are included with another property. I look at my very first experience years ago was the Walgreens in Smithfield. They purchased residential properties to build that, and they paid generally twice what those properties were worth. I remember years and years ago, the store on the corner, the old country store on the corner of Powhatan and Highway 70, that's now Speedway. And that really was kind of the very first commercial use in this area. And, then came Cutter, then came Natvar. You look at everything going on out there, it tends to spread from a central location, which to me is that section of Highway 70. And I feel that if Mr. Smith or Ms. Scott were to say, we think we want to sell our property, and that's a market value, that's not a sentimental value, that it would command a higher value, or at least there'd be no detraction to the value in the marketplace. And I'll hush now because I can talk forever.
Thank you for those comments. So I think now we can turn it over to the board for their comments. So board members, feel free to unmute yourself and say your comments.
Mayor, this is Larry Smith. Can I make a comment to the person that just spoke?
I think we can do that. We haven't exceeded a time limit or anything yet. Samantha?
I just want he mentioned that the property value probably wouldn't be hurt. I've got a little less than 2 acres of land, but I built a house 12 years ago, and the house is worth many times what my property is worth if there weren't a house on it. So I definitely don't think I could get for my 2 acres, less than 2 acres of land, what my house is worth. No way. That's all I want to say with that. I think he's wrong on that count. There's no way that anybody's going to pay me $200,000 an acre, for my land. And so he's wrong, as it pertains to me.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So we don't have to vote, or we cannot vote today on this issue, and we will be able to deliberate as well at the next meeting. And I just had one comment myself, which was to say that, reviewing this, this is one of the kinds of votes that I find really difficult. I know that there are a lot of people in Clayton who highly value that RE designation and kind of that character that brings to the area. And particularly in instances like this, where you're talking about that zoning, you know, who's kind of pushing up against the industrial areas and that kind of border between those two zonings. However, my feeling on this was that particular area of Clayton has grown a lot and it has benefited a lot of people. And we've got some good companies who have come into that area. And with the 2040 plan, it to me seems like a consistent use. And again, we're not voting on that today, but I did want to at least acknowledge for myself the difficulty of these kind of votes, but also seeing both sides there. Did any of the other board members have comments at this time?
Andrea, this is Steve Powers. The one thing I'd like to say is I think it goes along with what you were saying. In an area like this, even if we denied this rezoning right now, with the area across the road next to them, either side, it's going to be changing in the near future. And I can understand the thought about not being able to get what he's put into his lot in the last 12 years. But if he was selling the lot as a residential at this point, he probably wouldn't be able to get what he would want for it, because what the appraiser was saying is just the fact that it would be an industrial zoned lot is going to raise the value of the lot. And I would agree with that. And I would think that the zoning of everything across the street, right down the road and all around them is going to be changing. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you, Board Member Powers. Was there anyone else on the board?
Madam Chairman, this is Marty Bizzle. I share in your comment about this being a difficult case, as we do sometimes have before our board. But, you know, in these cases, we do have a guiding document that the town stands behind, and that's our comprehensive plan. And I always like to look to that for advice on which way we should be heading. And I think in this case, our comp plan is a real help as far as that goes. And some other factors that I've looked at on this, you know, to the north, there appears to be a somewhat natural buffer as far as a natural stream. And then, you know, looking forward, if this were to actually be rezoned and a site plan presented to us, you know, there would be some planted buffers that would also, you know, be required to buffer the impact from the residential neighborhood. So, you know, with that, those are some things that I'm pondering over in my mind. But I do appreciate everybody's comments, because they're all very important in this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Bizzle. Any other comments from the board at this time? Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Written comments will be accepted from the public until 11 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. All public comments should be sent to the attention of the board clerk, C. Freeman at townofclaytonnc.org, or by phone at 919-553-5002. The Clayton Planning Board will take up this matter for deliberation and vote at the next regular meeting, which will be held on Monday, June 22nd, 2020. Hopefully I got all that right. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 4B, the public hearing for 2020-22-PDD Shops at Glen Laurel Planned Development Rezoning.
Good evening.
We'll now hear from the town attorney.
Yes. Just briefly, as I said with the last rezoning, because of the remote meeting and the recent legislation on remote hearings requiring public comment for 24 hours after, the board will not be taking action on this rezoning tonight, but we'll proceed to hear the applicant and any public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we will now hear from staff.
Good evening, board. Haley Hogue, Planner 2. Let me share my screen real quick. Can everyone see the PowerPoint? Okay, great. So this rezoning request is for the Shops at Glen Laurel Plan Development Rezoning 2020-22 PDD. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from residential estate to plan development mixed use. And the property is about 10.5 acres in size. It's located off of Glen Laurel Road, just south of the existing Shops at Glen Laurel Master Plan Development and just south of the intersection with 42 East. And right now it is currently vacant. So this map just shows the current zoning compared to the proposed rezoning. This color is shown outlined in blue as that light green color, which is our residential estate zoning district. And to the north, that dark brown color is the plan development mixed use designation. So the rezoning would be consistent with the properties to the north that are already existing in that plan development. This is the associated master plan. We included it in the agenda packet for informational purposes only. So plan developments, they don't have a standard, they're not a standard zoning district, so they don't have set uses or dimensional standards in our UDC. Those are set as part of the master plan. In this case, the applicant submitted a preliminary plat application, which is serving as the master plan. So the master plan is actually going to council, straight to council, since it is quasi-judicial. It does not get reviewed by planning board. So planning board tonight is only making a recommendation on the rezoning, and the master plan will be reviewed for final decision by council. But I did include it in the agenda packet just to kind of give you an idea of how this property might be incorporated into the master plan. The portion that's being heard tonight for the rezoning is outlined in green on this master plan. So it's that southern property, and then everything to the north of that is existing in terms of the master plan. And this plan, again, it's preliminary. It has not been TRC certified, so it is subject to change prior to council. The proposed zoning is consistent with the Comp Plan 2040. The future land use map designates it as medium density residential and neighborhood center. And specifically, goal LU1 is to preserve Clayton's small town character while allowing for growth and development in appropriate areas. So we do find the proposed rezoning consistent with that designation and that goal. And it's also consistent with the surrounding land uses. To the north, you have some commercial uses, multifamily. To the south, there are single-family residences. To the east is one of the town's parks, and to the west is actually industrial. It's Caterpillar. And so with that, again, tonight, planning board will make a recommendation in June for the council for this rezoning. And again, the master plan is not reviewed by planning board. It will proceed directly to council for a decision. And with that, I can answer any questions, and I believe the applicant is also prepared to speak as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
One quick question. I notice on the owner's consent form, the rezoning is supposedly for the Pines at Glen Laurel. I've not heard that before, and I'm assuming that is not the case. That it is going to be combined with the shops at Glen Laurel and not the Pines.
Yes. So when the applicant originally submitted the application, they noted the name of the whole development as Pines at Glen Laurel. So we had them update the application if that was not going to be the name, and they went to go with Shops at Glen Laurel. They chose to update the application, so you'll see the application titles this as Shops at Glen Laurel. The owner's consent form, I think, was just kind of a carryover from that error on the name in the beginning.
Okay, I was confused.
It would be incorporated to the Shops at Glen Laurel, not the Pines. My confusion, I think, was generally based on the fact that it seemed that this on the master plan that they submitted,
the use for this land is going to be generally residential. But I understand your explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, if not, we will call upon the applicant.
Okay. So Mark or Kate, if either of you want to speak, I have your slide pulled up that you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, board members and staff. This is Mark Ashness with the C Group. Kate Brown is also on the call. She's part of the development team for the project. And Haley's done a great job of sort of overviewing what we're doing. Essentially, this 10.5 acre tract comprises what you see as lots 10, 11, and a portion of lot 9 on the exhibit. We'll be adding a water quality pond in that southwestern corner of the property. As Haley mentioned, we're consistent with the 2040 land plan for medium density residential neighborhood center. The plan development mixed use fits perfectly with that. There's already adequate public facilities for the project. Obviously, services are already being provided for the main project that's already been approved and is under construction right now. I'm sure everyone is aware there's been substantial road improvements done on Glen Laurel and on NC 42. Our client participated in those road improvements. The rezoning of the property to the PDMU classification is consistent with town policies and regulations. As discussed earlier, Clayton is a growing area. The existing neighborhoods and businesses adjacent to this property will benefit from the additional services that will be provided with the expansion and inclusion of this 10.5 acres. As Haley mentioned, the R10 to the east is actually the town of Clayton's park. There is an RE parcel that's also shown on the 24 plan just south of us, and that's shown also to be upgraded to the MD residential neighborhood center. There's a cell tower on that site. You can see that in the aerial. And then on the western side of the property, it's industrial Caterpillar. So we're excited about bringing this to the balance of the project. I know there was a discussion about these are primary residential services. The assisted living will have memory care facility in it as well, and as well as independent living. As we know, with the aging population, these types of uses are very beneficial. It allows people that already live in the community to transition from existing places. In a growing town like Clayton, we feel comfortable that these services will benefit the town and the adjacent communities that are already located there. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Okay, if not, I will turn it over to the board clerk for public comments.
I did not receive any comments for this.
Okay, thank you. Then we can turn it over to the board for their consideration at this time. So are there any comments from our board members? I can't see everyone on my screen, so sorry if I've just interrupted, but I was just going to offer up my comments again. Looking at this, to me, this, and of course we're not voting today, but it completely fits with the use for that area and just expands what's basically already going on there. And, you know, and to me, a logical common sense way to put all these things together. And that area is just growing and there's going to be demand for that sort of thing out there. So to me, it fits the growth that's happening in that area and makes sense. Were there any other comments from the board?
One quick comment. The only comment I would have is the expansion I agree with. The fact that it's expanding the shops designation doesn't sit well with me because it minimizes the number of retail establishments that can be put into the shops. Currently, with this, using this map's information, slightly more than a third of the lots that are in there are designated for retail, where more than that, slightly more than that, are designated for residential. For a shopping center, that doesn't sit well with me, as I said. That's my only comment. And I know that all we're looking at right now is the rezoning. And so as far as that goes, I just wanted to add my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Powers. Any other comments for this one? Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Written comments will be accepted from the public until 11 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. All public comments should be sent to the attention of the board clerk, C. Freeman, at townofclaytonnc.org, or by phone at 919-553-5002. The Clayton Planning Board will take up this matter for deliberation and vote at the next regular Planning Board meeting, which will be held on Monday, June 22nd, 2020. The next item on the agenda is 5A. This is new business 2020-37-SD Health Park at 42 West Major Site Plan. And we'll now hear from staff.
Good evening, Jeff Keynes, Town Planner. I'm here to present the here we go. All right, quicker on the draw. I'm here to present the Health Park at 42 West Major Site Plan 2020-037-SP. It's a request for construction of 4 additional.
Right now, we can just see the server folder. I can't see the PowerPoint at least. I would try to unshare and then there you go. Well,
Try it again. Nope. Yep.
I don't know if this is helpful. It did flash up there briefly twice, so I don't know if there's something you're clicking that's helping.
give it, Ryan, if you can't get it, I'll pull it up on my screen for you.
All right, let's try it again. Do you see it?
No, I'll pull it up, Jeff. Just tell me when to switch to the next slide.
One last shot.
Hey, it worked.
Modern technology. All right. Again, Jeff Keynes, Town Planner, Town of Clayton. Tonight's request is to construct 4 additional medical office buildings. It's current at the location of NC 42 West and Health Park Way, just east of US Highway 70. Should be noted, this project has been reviewed and approved twice in the past. Once in 2016 under file number 2016-36-SP, and prior to that as a planned development in 2012. PD-MU-2012-53. As you can see, the property size is about 8.86 acres in size. The proposal is to build 3 additional buildings. 3 of those are about 10,000 square feet and one building about 20,000 square foot. The grayed out area is what is currently existing on the site. So they did build one site in the lower right-hand corner of the site plan. Proposing just over 350 parking spaces, 20 of those handicapped, and you would have direct access to North NC 42 via Health Park Way down the center. Here's some renderings of the architectural design that was submitted with the application. As you can see, primarily red brick, and all the designs will be consistent on all four sides as required by code. Staff finds it is consistent with the comprehensive plan of 2040, and also is consistent with the surrounding land uses. And with that, it concludes the staff report. Staff recommends approval of the major site plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yes, Jeff, was the original plan for 4 buildings or 5 buildings?
The original plan, I believe, was for 5 buildings. In this, one of them's already been built.
Right.
So 4 more are scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have the applicant here to speak if they so wish.
Yes, Chris Tingler with Klein Design, landscape architect. As Jeff stated, location and come before you tonight, renew the site plan for Health Park 42 East that has expired. As you know, site plans have a sunset date of 2 years. There's not been any activity on this site for at least 4 years. Usually with this type of use, medical office use, one builds a building for a specific user, and usually you're building it for the user for a long-term lease agreement for those users. So it's just taken our client many years to, working hard to get users and tenants into these office spaces. As Jeff stated, everything in gray has been built. We're final agreements on turning over this spine street, bisecting our site down the middle, turning it over to the public. There was, as well as Highway 42, we had dedication right away out there as well. So we're in the final processes of doing that. Our intent with our next phase is to build building 5, which is plan right on this page, along with the little bit of parking there. That's always been built on this project. The tenant is Fresenius. Fresenius is a kidney dialysis service for the public. So the use, as you can see, tenants are not easy to come by, especially in our market. So I think it would be a great service for this community to have this kind of ability. As you can see, the site plan speaks for itself. Anyway, we have landscape plans. You can see the landscape plans. Like I said, everything in gray has been built, trees planted. If they've died over the years, we plan to plant them back. But everything's out there grown. If you haven't been by, take a drive out there. Really nice product we're building. If we can go to the next existing images, we help sell. We included some photographs. Do you have those, Jeff? We provided some photographs, but sometimes plans are. There you go. That's what's built out there now. Our first phase project that's along 42. This is, unfortunately, this is the back side. This is internal to the project. And then the other side facing 42 is even better. But we're planning on building the same type of building, same look. same features on all these buildings. So anyway, with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant?
Yes, Bucky Coates with the planning board, Chris. First of all, I want to commend the developer on, first of all, a very attractive building, the original one. But more than that, the clients that came in there have really added to what we needed in Clayton. And I commend the developer for that. I'm looking forward to the next phase of this. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Coates. I'm sorry, Board Member Coates. Anyone else on the board have comments?
Marty Bizzle, Chris, just wanted to reiterate Mr. Coates's comments, and you answered my question as far as would the architecture match what is existing out there now, but you've already answered that, and glad to see this getting new life and coming forward, and thanks for all you're doing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marty.
I think I skipped over accidentally. Do we have public comments for this? And I'll turn that over to the board clerk.
No, there's no public comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, Bucky Coates. I recommend approval for this major site plan.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Board Member Coates and a second by Board Member Bizzle. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the board clerk for voting.
Okay, in order to ensure the record accurately reflects the vote for this item, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Travis Avery.
Yes.
Brian Teed.
Yes.
Stephen Powers.
Yes.
James Lipscomb.
Yes.
Bucky Coates.
Yes.
Andrea Merritt.
Yes.
James Moore.
Yes.
Marty Bizzle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion approved. Okay. The next item on the agenda is informal discussion and public comment. Is there anyone who wants to speak at this time?
Bucky Coates again. I would like to commend our planning director. I think this meeting went really well, and Andrew, you did a great job of chairing it for us. Thank you both very much. Everybody else on the planning department. Thank y'all for your job well done.
I would second that. Thank you.
And thank you to my entire team and Stacy, our PIO, and our clerk's office. I was very, very small piece of this puzzle. They really put this all together. So, but thank you, Board Member Coates and everyone else. I think it went great.
Yep.
Oh, you figured out a clap emoji. I like that, Marty. Find that.
Now, if I can turn it off.
We got a thumbs up also. All right. I'll have to play around with that later. Okay. Any other comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn, Steve Powers.
Is there a second?
Second, this is Marty Bizzle.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn, Board Member Powers, and a second by Board Member Bizzle. And now we'll turn it over to the board clerk for voting.
Okay. All right, so just indicate your vote when I call your name. Travis Avery.
Yes.
Brian Teed.
Yes.
Stephen Powers.
Yes.
James Lipscomb.
Yes.
Bucky Coates.
Yes.
Andrea Merritt.
Yes.
James Moore,
Yes.
Marty Bizzle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Meeting is adjourned.